right, good morning. Thanks for joining us. It is Wednesday. So for all of those who thought yesterday was Monday, just prepare, you lost Tuesday, and today's Wednesday, and I hope you all had an enjoyable Memorial Day weekend, the official kickoff, the unofficial kickoff the summer. You know, one thing about Memorial Day is you heard a lot of testimonies and you witness, if you watch news and TV, a lot of the feel-good stories or those heart-pulling stories about our soldiers and veterans that lost their lives in combat as we celebrated their sacrifice and paid honor to them. One particular one that stood out to me was a father was burying his son who had died in combat a few years ago, and they were sharing the story. He was from small town America, out in a rural country area, very small graduating class, and they were having a celebration of life at a small church, and the father was emotional, and he was up there in front of the casket with the flag over it, and he held up this ragged piece of paper. And like most small towns, all of the young man's classmates had returned, because it was only a couple of years after graduation, had came to pay honor to their fallen classmate. And the father shared that this piece of paper had been pulled from the vest he wore as he was killed in action. And on that sheet of paper was a list of all the words that his classmates had wrote about him at graduation, encouraging words, things they admired about him. And the other soldiers said he constantly would look at this ragged sheet of paper and fold it up and put it back in his vest. You see, the week of graduation, a teacher had asked the small classroom to look around the room, write down the names of every one of their classmates, and write a word of encouragement. Something that inspired them or they admired about their fellow classmate. The teacher then took the papers and compiled them and made individual lists and handed them back out at graduation to each student. This is what your classmates said about you. And to use it as motivation and encouragement as they went through life. As the father shared it and thanked all the other young people who came back to pay honor, they started standing up one at a time and sharing the words. One man stood up and said, he was a successful businessman. He said, I actually framed my list from all my classmates. And as I went through business and tried to grow a business and all the challenges that come with that, I constantly keep it on my desk, and it reminds me that I can do things. One lady said she kept hers in her wedding album. And whenever she flipped through the picture, she would always pull that out and remember the things her classmates said about her, and it made her a better wife and a better mother. One person said they carried it every day. They never was a day they didn't reflect back whenever they felt down to encourage them. One young lady stood up and actually had it in her purse with her and said, I carry mine every day and have since graduation. And everybody means so much to me. And the words you said have inspired me to continue. Today's message is encouragement. So think back to a time when someone encouraged you. Maybe you were facing a challenge or a problem or a difficulty in life. And someone just reached out and gave you a word of encouragement. You got this. You can do it. How did it make you feel? Did it inspire you to continue to push and press on? Maybe it made you energetic. You were energized to tackle what was ever in front of you. Maybe you were going through a dark period, and it just made you hopeful that you knew there was light at the end of the tunnel. You see, our spiritual enemy doesn't want us encouraging each other, because when we encourage each other as fellow Christians, we're lifting up ourselves. But the devil wants to divide and conquer. So I encourage you today, encourage your coworkers, encourage your friends, your teammates, and encourage your children. Encourage them to stretch higher. I heard a motivational speaker from Illinois online. He was talking about a time that he was painting the family laundry room. And they were painting the room, and his 10-year-old son wanted to help. So the father would stand on a ladder with a brush and reach the high spots. And the little 10-year-old boy wanted a roller. Well, he couldn't reach very high. So the father said, you just kind of do your strokes here in the middle. Well, like most 10-year-olds, the little boy would get bored. He'd put his roller down. He'd run in the kitchen to get a juice box or a snack or something. And the father would jump down and paint over what the little boy had already done to kind of smooth it out. Then he'd get back on the ladder and the little boy came back in. And as he'd look down, he'd see his son up on his tiptoes with the roller trying to reach as high as his father. And the father would say, no, quit stretching. Stay in your area. You're going to drop the roller brush. You might trip and knock the paint over. You just stay right there. I'll take care of the rest of it. And this pattern continued. And the father finally took a break and he went out in the kitchen to get a Coke. And when he came back, he saw the little boy again up on his toes, stretching so high, trying to reach his father's brush marks. And the father kind of scolded him. What did I tell you? Quit standing, quit reaching so high, quit stretching. Then the father stopped and he realized, and he wrote in a book later, how many times have I told my child not to stretch, not to go further and go beyond what you're capable of, not to push yourself? He said, I hope he didn't listen. Because I found out when I thought I was trying to protect my child, to stay close, do what you're comfortable with, that I was preventing his growth. I was preventing him from stepping out and being all that he could be. We should be encouraging our children to step out there, to go for it. No matter what you're doing, go for your dreams. Try to be what you should be. Instead of just trying to follow in your dad's footsteps, go live your life. And he thought, I hope my son knows I want him to be his own person. I want him to stretch higher. I want to encourage him to be everything he can be and to create his own accomplishments. Hebrews 10:24 and 25 says, and let us consider how we may spur one another on towards love and good deeds, not giving up meeting together, as some are in the habit of doing, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day approaching. How can you encourage someone today? Can you think of one person in your life that may be going through something, facing a challenge, has a big decision ahead of them? Maybe you just send them a simple text. You're thinking of them. You can do it. You got this. Maybe it's through some social media platform. You could spur them on and encourage them there. And heaven forbid you actually make a real life phone call and actually talk to somebody and say, I just want you to know you got this. I believe in you. Keep going. Because sometimes when people are going through things, they get a feeling of isolation. And when you're isolated, it can make you feel out of touch. You can even be in a room full of people and feel totally isolated, like you're the only one. And you're thinking to yourself, no one understands me. I'm the only one that's got these problems in life. And if I open up or share anything or be honest about my feelings, I might get rejected. But see, those are the devil's lies and schemes to keep us separated from encouraging each other. So we don't tell somebody. Instead of encouraging one another, we just stay in fear and doubt. So don't create barriers. If you're stressed out and you need encouragement, seek someone. You don't have to tell everyone or the world your problems, but there's always someone, a trusted advisor, a friend, a parent, somebody that you can always talk to. And as fellow Christians, we should receive that in confidence and continue to pray and encourage each other. To encourage somebody to press on, to never give up, to keep going. 2 Chronicles 15:7 says, but as for you, be strong, do not give up, for your work will be rewarded. Sometimes we need to provide words of comfort. Sometimes we just need to listen without judgment. And if we do feel compelled to respond or pray, we need to choose our words carefully. It may be a friend or a colleague or a coworker, someone that reminds you of God's truth. And we need to continue to encourage and stand by each other so that iron can sharpen iron. Proverbs 27:17 says, as iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. We're there to lean on each other and to encourage each other and spur each other on with encouraging words of Christ. You see, strength's measured in pounds. How much can I lift? How much can I push? Speed is measured in seconds. How fast am I? But courage, how do you measure that? You can't measure courage. You can only experience it. Courage is not a lack of fear. Courage is being scared to death and doing it anyway, to go forward and keep going. When's the last time you showed courage? When's the last time you faced something that scared you? But instead of pulling back, you continue to face it and move forward. Maybe it was a job, a decision to move or change careers. Maybe it was a decision in your personal life that you had to face. Maybe it was a health challenge or a financial problem. Even if you were scared, the courage is to keep moving forward. In the 1992 Olympic Games, Derek Redmond was one of the great runners for Great Britain. He had won several medals. His last event was the 400. As he rounded the last turn, he pulled his hamstring. In fact, he tore his hamstring completely loose. If you've ever pulled a hamstring, it's painful. And your whole leg turns black and blue. And your hamstring prevents you from picking up your leg and kicking your heel back. Well, as he came around the final turn, about 100 meters from the finish line, his hamstring popped. And the other runners blew by him. And he was trying to walk to the finish line. It became obviously he was not going to get there. Until a man came out of the stands and ran out on the Olympic track. And he threw his arm around his shoulder and he said, "Come on, son, I'll walk you through this." His dad had came down from the stands. He knew his son was struggling and injured. But he also knew the most important thing for his son was to finish that race, his final race. And step by step, he limped his son to the finish line. And he got disqualified because he had outside interference, but the crowd roared and stood in ovation. And it was so important for him to finish the race. He went on to become the track coach and the Olympic coach for Great Britain. He became a motivational speaker. And you've probably seen that moment. It's in a lot of Visa commercials that run during Olympics. Nike runs that commercial about encouraging people. And sometimes you got to take your brother or your fellow person and throw their arm around your neck. We have to walk with them. In the Olympics in 2000, a guy named Eric Musambane is from Equatorial Guinea in Africa. He was 22 years old. He had learned to swim 9 months prior to the Olympics. And yet where he lived was no Olympic swimming pool. He learned to swim in a lake. And there was one swimming pool in his country in the small hotel that was 20 meters long. And he practiced in it, and he was only allowed to swim in it from 5 to 6 a.m. in the morning. But the Olympics have a special program for third world impoverished countries that through a random process and through a series of applications, in each event, they will pick somebody that technically did not even qualify for the Olympics. Well, Eric's name got chosen to swim in the 100-meter freestyle. He'd been swimming for 9 months. He was from a place that had no Olympic pool. The furthest he had ever swam in his life was 50 meters, and he was going to the Olympics to race 100 meters. Well, because he was only on there by this special program, He was in the last heat. As you know, in the Olympics, they have heats. Then the winners of each heat advance, and then you have to meet a certain time limit to go to the finals. Well, in the final heat, it was Eric and two other people was all that's left. As they went to the starting blocks and the guns sounded and they took off, he heard the double shot. The other two racers false started, and they were disqualified. So Eric had to re-get on the block, and in an Olympic stadium in Sydney, Australia, he was the only guy racing. He had never raced in an Olympic pool and didn't even really know what a lane was. So racing by himself, he dove in the water at the gun and started to swim. You go 50 yards down, you turn around, you come 50 meters back. He got to the end and he grabbed the wall and he's huffing, far as he'd ever swam. And he kicks off and he's heading back the other direction. And 10 meters from the wall, he can't put his head under the water. He has no technique. He's hitting those rubber lanes. 10 meters, he pulls up, gasping for air, and he's sinking. And the crowd thinks he's going to drown because he's literally exhausted. Well, the other swimmers ran to the edge of the pool, and they're beating on the wall. Come on, Eric, finish. You only got 10 more meters. Come on. And the crowd stood up and started giving him a standing ovation and chanting his name. And Eric lowered his head and he gutted out the 10 meters. And he finished that race in 1 minute and 52 seconds. Well, the winning time was 48 seconds. His time, it took him 3 times as long to finish, but he finished. And they pulled him out of the water, and he's gasping for air, but he's got the biggest grin on his face because he just realized he had won his heat in the Olympics. He was the only guy racing, but he won his heat. And they pulled him up, and the other swimmers were slapping him on the back and wrapping him in towels. And the little poolside reporter came up to Eric to interview the winner of that heat. And through an interpreter, he said, I just want to give hugs and kisses to everyone in the crowd because they kept me going. Those other swimmers in that crowd, it was the words of encouragement that let me finish. I thought I was going to drown, but your encouragement kept me going. 1 Thessalonians 5:11, therefore, encourage one another and build each other up, just as in fact you are doing. You see, we've all walked different roads for a reason in our life. We've all experienced different trials and challenges. And God uses our own past trials and tribulations in order to help someone else out in the future, to encourage them. The details may not always be the same. We all have our own stories to tell. But the words from your own experiences in life, they're meaningful. Every tough time you've ever been through, every challenge, that's your story. That's your story of encouragement for somebody else. Someone you know right now may be experiencing a tough time. What can you offer? Words of encouragement, some hugs, a prayer. Speak the name of Jesus over someone today, whoever that person is that you're visualizing in your mind that just needs to be picked up and spurred on. Just keep going a little further. You just got a little more way to go. Don't quit now. Even if you don't fully understand their situation, pray over them. Jesus knows exactly what they're going for. And when we petition on somebody else's behalf and encourage our fellow brother or sister in Christ, we call down power from heaven to move and to act. 2 Corinthians 1:3-4 says, praise be to the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, the Father of compassion and the God of all comfort, who comforts us in our troubles so that we can comfort those in any trouble with the comfort we ourselves receive from God. So in closing today, you're going to encounter two types of people in life. The first person is the one that's always full of fear, anxiety, and doubt. They just can't do it, ain't going to happen, we're in trouble, we're not going to make it. You're always going to encounter that group of people. And the second group of people are the ones that are always full of excitement, optimism. They have that encouraging mindset. We can do this. God's going to provide. We'll get through this. We just have to keep going. We have to press on. We can't give up. Those are two different sets of people. And who you learn from and who you listen to, that's your choice. So choose wisely who you associate yourself with and where you draw encouragement from. And when you're in position and somebody comes to you, encourage them to stretch higher. Encourage them to keep going. Encourage them to keep following Christ and to believing that God will provide. You can be God's hands and feet in a troubled world today that needs encouraging. So always lean on God's promises and encourage someone and let them know that they too can lean on you. Have a wonderful, blessed week. We will see you back here next Wednesday, which will actually be in the month of June. So God bless you. Enjoy your week, and we'll see you next Wednesday.